Paige, 20 years old. I married James, my boyfriend since middle school, on my birthday. We got married at a relatively young age, but James started working right after middle school, studying programming while working. Now he's a programmer and earns a good income. I also started working right after high school, so both of us were financially independent. After James officially proposed, we moved in together, and since then, I've been living a very happy life. However, James has been dealing with some family issues. James comes from a family of 4, his parents and his sister Sarah. When we went to meet his family for the first time to introduce myself after the engagement, I was told beforehand by James, "My family is full of hopeless people, but I was still unprepared for what happened next." Nice to meet you! I'm Paige. It's a pleasure to... Oh, nice to meet you, by the way, about the allowance for next month. Do you think we get a little more than usual? Oh... I'd already heard that James was sending money to his family. Even though he often said he didn't like them, he's someone who values family ties and does what's right. It was very much like James. Is it really appropriate to talk about money when you're meeting your son's fiancé for the first time, especially during an engagement greeting?
Mom, this isn't the time to talk about this.
Oh, it's fine. Besides, your father and I believe that our children should live freely and do what they want. So if James wants to get married, we have no objections, right, honey?
Ah, exactly. Now, about the allowance.
What are they saying? Are these people seriously more concerned about the allowance they're receiving than their son's marriage? This is insane!
Paige, you're working too, right? So, James, there's no problem if we raise the amount we send to your parents, right?
My father-in-law has been doing nothing but lounging around the house ever since he was laid off from his job years ago. Well, when James was little and had a fever in the middle of the night, it was such a struggle to take him to the hospital.
Yeah, I worked hard to repay my parents for raising me.
James, who had been quietly staring at the floor with clenched fists, whispered, "It was Grandma who took me to the hospital back then." I heard that James's paternal grandmother had been living in that house long before he was born. Before James and I met, I heard that his grandmother passed away from cancer. Apparently, his parents made his grandmother take care of him when he was little. Earlier, my father-in-law mentioned how hard he worked to repay his parents for raising him, but honestly, I can hardly believe that. Then, "I'm home!" A woman in flashy clothes walked into the living room. I immediately guessed that this must be James's older sister, who is 7 years older than him.
Sis, I told you to stay home because my fiancé was coming over today. Where did you go?
Oh, I found out there was a sale at the Outlook Park today. I had to go. It's fine. Wow, not just the parents, but the sister seems pretty off too. Wait, is that his fiancé? Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. Hi. Then James suddenly stood up straight and said,
I've introduced Paige to everyone now, so it's all official, right? I've made sure to keep things proper as family.
Well, anyway, about the remittance. Just then!
Paige, let's go.
James suddenly grabbed my arm tightly. Wait, what? James! He pulled me by the arm and we left his family's house.
I'm sorry, Paige. I must have made you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I was a little, no, a lot, taken aback. But James, you've been through so much, haven't you? From now on, I'll be here, so everything's going to be fine. Still, even though they're pretty awful people, I felt that given certain circumstances, it might be better to invite his family to the wedding. After talking things through with James, we decided to invite his parents and Sarah to the wedding. We assigned the wedding reception duties to Dan, James's childhood friend. I knew Dan well enough. He was efficient, quick-thinking, and someone I trusted too. However, just before the ceremony, when James and I were in the waiting room, a staff member rushed in saying, "There's a problem!" Apparently, Dan was in a heated argument with James's family, his parents and Sarah at the reception. The issue was that his parents and Sarah were demanding that Dan give them all the wedding gifts collected that day. I couldn't believe it, those people! After hearing the situation, James and I quickly rushed to the reception where we found Dan glaring at his family while raising his voice.
Enough already! Think about James's feelings!
Huh? What's wrong with us, his parents, taking the wedding gifts?
Yeah, Dan, come on. Give us the gifts you collected. No way! I absolutely will not give them to you!
Dan's always been so stubborn. Just give them to us already.
Get out of here! All three of you!
In the end, James kicked his family out of the wedding venue, and as a result, they were absent from the ceremony. The wedding went ahead without them. The week after the wedding, we went on our honeymoon. We checked into a luxury hotel and, as planned, took a taxi to a specific location. When we arrived, we were about to enter a cafe inside the facility when my phone rang. It was a call, and when I looked at the screen, it said, "Mother-in-law." You see, after we decided to invite his family to the wedding, I had exchanged phone numbers with my mother-in-law. James wanted to avoid speaking with his family as much as possible, so I thought I'd handle things for him if anything came up. I didn't want to be disturbed on our honeymoon, and James said I didn't have to answer, but for some reason, I had a bad feeling, so I decided to pick up the call. Hello? Oh, Paige, I'm glad you picked up. I tried calling James's phone, but it wouldn't connect. So where are you guys right now? Where? We're on our honeymoon. I know that. My husband, Sarah, and I are at your vacation spot right now. What? You're here? What on earth is going on? Neither James nor I had told his family where we were going or the details of our honeymoon plans. I heard you're staying at a luxury hotel. Well, we're staying there too, so you can cover the accommodation costs for us. Huh? We've already covered the transportation costs, but we're gonna ask James to pay back to us later. You know, it's the end of the month, right? We barely have any money left since James always sends us money at the end of the month. These people, they just barged into our honeymoon destination and expect us to pay for the trip? Seriously, enough is enough, and I'm about to lose it. Then, out of nowhere... Actually, Dan was the one who told us where you guys are going for your honeymoon, but he didn't mention the hotel. So where's the hotel? Oh, it's so hot here in Hawaii. What? It seems like James overheard my mother-in-law's voice, too. I could also hear my father-in-law and Sarah's voices in the background. I want to go to the Ala Moana Center!
Huh? Ala Moana?
It's a huge shopping mall.
Oh, that's great! Let's get some money from James later and go together.
Then I finally realized what was going on. These people! Seriously! It took me a moment to figure out what they were saying, but wow! They're unbelievably clueless. It seems like James had figured it out too, and we both had to try really hard not to laugh while holding our stomachs. Now, let me explain why these people were so clueless. Oh, a shopping mall sounds great! Paige, could you tell us which hotel you're staying at? We want to check in, drop off our bags, and cool off before shopping. It's so hot. Oh, I can't take it. It's snowing here? Huh? Yeah, we're at a ski resort in Japan right now. That's right, we're in a ski resort in Hokkaido! Wait, but Dan said you guys were going to Hawaii for your honeymoon.
Hello? Dan?
At that point, James called Dan, and when he put his phone on speaker, he brought it closer to mine.
Hey, did my family ask you about where Paige and I are going for our honeymoon? Yeah, they did. They kept asking over and over. You know, I still live with my parents and help out with the family business, so they come over like every day. It was getting annoying, so I just told them you guys were going to stay at a luxury hotel in Hawaii.
You told us a lie?
Good job, Dan. Wait, good job? Yeah, I'll call you later to thank you. Thanks again. A thank you? Well, whatever. Talk to you later.
James laughed quietly as he hung up the phone with Dan. Wait a second, we haven't even booked our return flight yet, and it's the end of the month, so we don't have any money. Well, I think it's a little naive to just hop on a flight to Hawaii thinking James would cover the cost for you while you got there. Looks like you'll have to figure it out on your own now. You're kidding, right? We can't even get back to Japan like this. Let me talk to James. I need to get some money from him somehow.
Paige, can you put the phone on speaker?
So I put my phone on speaker.
Mom, I'm telling you right now, I'm not giving you any more money from now on.
What?
I decided this a few years ago. I'd sent money to my parents until I turned 20. But after that, I'm cutting bonds with you guys. No more money.
Wait, you decided that?
Sure, Mom. You gave birth to me. That's how I met Paige. Dad also paid for my school, so I thought I should repay that debt. That's why I sent money. But the person who raised me with love, that was definitely my grandma. Also, ever since I started working, I've been sending money. After I became a programmer, the amount increased significantly. I've already repaid you both enough, don't you think?
After the wedding, James immediately blocked his family's phone numbers. I had actually forgotten to block his mom's number since we hadn't had any contact afterward. Initially, James planned to tell his family directly he was cutting ties with them as a final closure. However, after they caused a drama at the wedding demanding wedding gifts, he decided they weren't even worth the effort to give a proper goodbye, so he blocked their numbers and decided to sever ties without saying a word. The wedding had been planned as the last day he would be part of that family. We'd invited them, at least as a gesture of being family, but I never imagined they would do something so outrageous. Anyway, we're strangers now, so goodbye. Wait, please forgive us! At least give us the money for the return flight to Japan! As I listened to my mother-in-law's desperate crying, I hung up the phone and blocked her number for good. Then, the following week, after returning from our honeymoon, we were on our way to Dan's house with souvenirs when we passed in front of my in-laws' house. Please forgive us! I heard my mother-in-law's cry as my in-laws and Sarah suddenly appeared from the house looking depressed. Huh? James! Paige!
Help us!
Huh? Crying, the three of them rushed towards me and James and immediately dropped to the floor, bowing in apology. Actually, we met a Japanese man in Hawaii, and after promising to pay him back when we got back to Japan, all three of us borrowed money from him to manage to come back. But that man turned out to be connected to some shady people. We were in a bad situation and didn't really read the paperwork carefully before signing it. It turned out to be a loan agreement, but we didn't have a choice. We had no other way to get home. We've been living off James's money, and now we don't have any money. We promised to pay him back as soon as we got back, but now they're threatening us. A bunch of scary men showed up at our house demanding the money. Please do something. Just then the scary men appeared, grabbing the collars of the three of them who were still kneeling in front of us. The three of them were dragged inside the house crying. Later, I found out what happened to my in-laws and Sarah from Dan, who heard the gossip from the neighbors. Apparently, the three of them, who had been living off of James's money, had debts of their own. Their credit limits were maxed out, but it seems like they didn't care. People who live without shame or gratitude, depending on the hard-earned money of others, tend to have a tragic inability to manage money properly. They ended up selling the family house and land, paying off some of their debts, and moving into a cheap apartment. But eventually, they ran out of money again and had to rely on sketchy loan sharks once again. Since they had been so dependent on James's money and lived lazily, even when they tried to start part-time jobs, they couldn't keep up, being late, unable to work properly, and quitting quickly. In the end, they were stuck in a cycle of repaying debts, working jobs arranged by those sketchy loan sharks. James's father was put to work on a fishing boat, doing hard labor that didn't suit him, getting yelled at by burly men in a language he couldn't understand. James's mother worked in a garbage disposal site deep in the woods, and Sarah spent her days searching for things in a filthy, dangerous river. Each of them were living a miserable existence, but honestly, it was their own fault. As for me, I'm living happily with James in a new house we built. And guess what? I found out I'm pregnant! Around the same time, I decided to quit my job. Once the baby arrives, I'll be a stay-at-home mom, supporting James and our child. Oh, and just the other day, Dan came over to visit us.
Hey, James! When I told my mom that your wife was pregnant, she handed me this box and told me to take it to you.
Wow! Grapefruit juice and soy milk cookies and a bunch of fruits, too! Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan. No problem. My mom really looked up to your grandmother, you know? So she thinks of you like her own child. Now that your wife is pregnant, she just had to support you. It might be a bit much, but hey, that's just how she is.
Not at all. We really appreciate it. Please send our thanks to your mom as well. Thank you for watching. What kind of crazy people will we get to see next? Stay tuned for more.